Welcome to Wealth Builders with your host, Anthony Congemi, brought to you by Crescent City Retirement Group, the show that's all about helping you grow, protect, and secure your financial future. From Social Security maximization and strategic 401k and IRA planning to tips on life insurance, Medicare, and annuities, Anthony and the team at Crescent City Retirement Group have the tools you need to help set you up for a successful retirement. It's time to take control of your financial future. Now here's your host, the trusted voice in retirement planning, Anthony Congemi.
All right, welcome to another show of Wealth Builders. My name's Anthony Congemi, and I have our fabulous co-host with us this morning, as we do every Sunday morning, Mr. Tony Shore. We do have, we are now in full launch of our new name and show credentials, Wealth Builders. The show is about accumulation, tax advantaged distribution, and leveraging and transferring wealth from one generation to the next. So we appreciate you joining us this morning, and we have a great show for you this morning. But before we get into it, Tony, thank you so much for joining us. And how are you doing this morning?
Well, I'm doing good. You know, we're recording this show. It doesn't air until Sunday, but we record it right after the Super Bowl. So last night was the Super Bowl. That was interesting, wasn't it?
It really was. We boiled some crawfish. I had some friends over. We had a good time. You know, I wish the game would have been a little better. I wasn't expecting Philly to, really, I mean, we were expecting a really good game, so it
Right.
didn't work out as well for Kansas City,
yeah.
but nevertheless, we had a good time. I know the quarter was packed. I think New Orleans as a whole, the city really was a fabulous host city. I think everything went off really well here in our city, and so all in all, I think it was a good it was a good event.
Yeah, the NFL was broadcasting from down there in the French Quarter the whole day. There were activities, the film crews, the NFL people were down there, and it looked like it was a blast. And I think the city looked great, and they had good security there. I always get a kick out of the celebrities at the game. At one point, at the beginning of the game, in one of the executive boxes was Paul McCartney talking to Adam Sandler. So you see things like that. It's like, what are Adam Sandler and Paul McCartney talking about? That's always funny. And the president was there, and of course Taylor Swift was there. She runs the NFL now, I guess. I don't know, but she was there. And
Now, I wasn't sure about the halftime show. Like, these are, but I mean, even
you and I are too old to.
Well, but I mean, I got 21 and 22-year-old, 24, 22, and they really weren't familiar with the fella. So I think it might even be younger than that.
Yeah, no, my youngest is very familiar and a fan, but even she watched it with us, and she's 20. She watched it with us, and Kendrick Lamar is considered one of the greatest hip hop artists, but he just, there were no musicians, no instruments. It was just, rapping to tracks. And so I can't comment because that's not my genre, and I don't listen to that kind of music. So I don't know whether it was good or bad. Some people loved it. A lot of people did not. So I thought that was interesting.
Right.
I always like it. Of course, I like it when there's a rock artist or something, but I think the greatest halftime performer of all time was Prince when he sang Purple Rain in the pouring rain at the Half Bowl Super Bowl. Remember that when it was just pouring rain and Prince is up there singing Purple Rain and it's pouring rain. I mean, you can't, and then
you can't get any better than that.
No. And he ripped a great guitar solo. I think that's the bar, and it's set pretty high. But yeah, there were some disappointments, but overall, I thought it went well, unless you're a Chiefs fan. But it wasn't as great a game. I thought Saquon Barkley would break a few big plays. He did not. I thought Mahomes would pull off some huge plays that we'd be able to really would be amazing. And there was one long pass that was good, but otherwise, the Eagles just dominated. So.
They really did. I mean, they just didn't show up, like they had been, and I guess it was just an off night.
Yeah, probably. Well, let's jump into our topic. I know we started this a couple of weeks ago on the last new episode we did, and we're talking about estate planning. And I know part of Wealth Builders and the new show title and the new direction is to cover the foundation, accumulation, distribution, and transfer. And estate
Correct.
planning would probably be on the latter side of that, the transfer of wealth.
Correct.
And so there are a lot of mistakes people can make when planning their estate or transferring their wealth to loved ones, aren't there?
There really is, Tony. And, a lot of these things we'll be talking about this morning, they're really not complicated. They're not complicated to get set up. But if you don't have an estate plan, or not having an estate plan, or failing to create an estate plan, can really then become a pretty complicated situation, because things aren't spelled out the way they could have been, to make for an easy transition from one, a person to the next, or one generation to the next. So estate planning and just having a well-documented plan is really the first and foremost of importance.
Yeah, and I think that is important, having a plan. That's where you start. The biggest mistake people can make is to not have an estate plan or a plan in place on what happens after you pass. It's not just, some people think, well, I don't need an estate plan or a plan for this because, I'm not a multi-millionaire or whatever, what have you. But it doesn't matter how much or how little you have. If you have a lot, people think, oh, it'll get taken care of. If you have a little, people think they don't need it. But everybody needs a plan, right?
Absolutely. And, we often talk about how assets transfer, and primarily, Tony, the two ways that your assets can transfer from one person to the next is either through your will, your last will and testament, either through your will or through beneficiary designations. So things like, your retirement accounts, annuities, life insurance, any types of retirement plans that have designated beneficiaries. Of course, those assets go directly to those beneficiaries. And then assets that don't have a designated beneficiary, of course, go through your will. So these are the two primary ways that assets will leave your name and go through your estate and go to the next folks in line. The key there is making sure that those beneficiary designations and those beneficiary forms are set up properly, and making sure that your will is current and accurate. But if those two pieces are in place, you're already, 85% of the way there. I mean, you'd be surprised at how many beneficiary forms we have to take care of, update. Sure. And so it's really important to make sure that these documents are done correctly.
Oh, for sure. And you want to make sure you're working alongside your financial planner and an estate planning attorney. And I know you've had the estate planning attorneys that you work with. We've had some on the air as guests, and you work closely with estate planning attorneys to help your clients, and that can help our listeners out there. You have to have a plan in place. in you. If state is different, every person's situation is different. So you need to work with a trusted professional and have a team. And that's what you do there. I know at Crescent City, you have a great team, and you work with all aspects of wealth building, including the transfer. Now, having a plan, that's step one. What's the second thing we need to be aware of?
Yeah, not updating the estate plan when there are changes. And let me just say, as you mentioned, we have an estate planning attorney we work closely with and other professionals. And I would say that making sure that everyone is aligned and collaborating is so important. It's the old adage, sometimes the right hand doesn't know what the left hand's doing.
Right.
And that in this instance, it's really important that everybody is on the same page, but not updating your estate plan, failing to review and update your plan after a major life change or life event, such as a marriage, divorce, a birth of a child or a grandchild. These are all just simply examples of a major life change. And so if any of these events take place, you want to make sure that your estate plan is updated. So not updating your estate plan, especially when there is a major life change, is really, it can't be overstated, Tony.
Yeah. No, the importance of this it's just huge. And I've seen it, Anthony, when my grandfather passed, my grandpa Bob, he lived to 101, as I've mentioned on the show before, and he was active through age 100. But when he did finally pass, he's 100% English guy and very stoic in certain senses, didn't talk about things like money. Didn't discuss that.
Right.
And so when he passed, he had a will and he had updated his will, but he did not work with he didn't work with an estate planning attorney or a financial advisor. And there were mistakes made, and it is so critical, and it can cause family disharmony. You don't want to drive your family apart just because you didn't have your wishes in order or your plan up to date. So what's another mistake we should avoid with this?
Yeah, that's so true, Tony. What you just mentioned and then the disharmony. I don't know what the percentage is, but I would imagine it's higher than we might think that the disharmony that comes about in people's families when someone passes away because people don't feel like they were treated fairly, or there's a lot of sometimes there's some tension or but within the family, they don't think that the other siblings or family members acted accordingly, and so really it can create a lot of tension and a lot of disharmony in a family. So having a really organized and well thought out estate plan really just goes a long way for just where families can just maintain their love and peace for each other. I mean, it's really something that happens, I think more times than we might think.
Yeah.
And so making sure that that's not the case is so important. Number 3, choosing the wrong executor. And so selecting someone who is unqualified or unwilling to take care of that role as executor or executrix, depending on if it's a male or female. So executor is the person that is named in the will that's going to help the attorney, the estate planning attorney, gather up the information that they're going to need to do the succession. So things like bank statements and account statements, titling of maybe the home, or maybe tax papers that were generated. So the executor is going to be the person that's going to work closely with the attorney to gather the information so the attorney can do a good job with the succession and the estate plan. So a very, very important person in the process. And the point here is selecting the right person. So someone who is qualified, who understands, titling and tax, someone that's got some type of accounting or financial type of background, somebody that's qualified and somebody that's willing to take that role on. So choosing the right executor or executrix is really a very important part of your overall estate plan.
Yeah. Again, or something you really want to avoid is not having all these ducks in a row, choosing the wrong executor. That was another aspect of my grandfather's situation that wasn't good. He had put his youngest son in charge, and the youngest son had talked to the attorney and to the grandfather, but nobody had talked to the other three siblings.
Yeah.
And there were things that got missed, like who gets the truck. My dad was under the impression he got it.
Right.
His brother was under the impression he got it. So then after my grandfather passed, since it wasn't clearly delineated in the will,
right,
and there were no trusts set up, so that would have helped things too. But
right.
You got to think of these things. What's something else that maybe we're not thinking about that we should know when it comes to our estate plans or our legacy?
Yeah, the number 4 is a big one. And boy, I tell you, we run into this one all the time. Not planning for an incapacity. So you become incapacitated and you're failed to designate a durable power of attorney for your health care or financial directives to be able to manage your affairs if you become incapacitated. So, all of a sudden you're, in a health situation and you're not able to care for yourself, or maybe a son or a daughter or a loved one is involved and they're trying to, bring on some additional health care needs, maybe home health or that sort of thing, or communicate with medical professionals or communicate with financial institutions. If they don't have your durable power of attorney to handle your medical and financial directives, you've literally handicapped that person. And so not having a power of attorney set up and a co-power of attorney in case that power of attorney can't perform the functions. But if you don't have a power of attorney for your medical and financial directives, and you become incapacitated, it really creates, I often say, and I know it's more than a $5 document, but really it's not expensive to have a durable power of attorney. But if you don't have it and you're in a situation where you need other people to act in your stead and they don't have it, it can create so much trouble and so many problems. And so it's an estate planning document. It's easy to get, but if you don't have it in place, it can be a real problem.
Yeah, and those powers of attorney, like you say, they're fairly straightforward. They're easy to get. They're not that expensive. You really need to do them because, I've run into it. My mom has late stage Parkinson's. My dad has Parkinson's. So, I have financial and medical power of attorney, durable full power of attorney because, and it's a good thing I do with my dad. I've needed it. So, you got to have that stuff in place. And a lot of people just don't like to think about those possibilities, but, as people live longer and longer, you need those things and, more so than ever. So not planning for incapacity or not getting those powers of attorney, that's a big one.
It is
a big one. What's another estate planning mistake we should avoid?
Not considering taxes, overlooking potential income tax, estate taxes, all sorts of taxes that can come about when someone passes away. Accounts are titled differently. We often say when we're doing our financial overviews, what's real important is how things are titled and how things are taxed. And so for assets that would get a step up in cost basis, have to be titled a certain way, but they get a step up that can be a very tax-friendly way to pass assets on. Pre-tax dollars like IRAs and 401ks, of course, that has some strings attached, and there's taxes that have to be paid there. Income taxes, state taxes, of course, the estate exemption is pretty high right now, but that's also something to keep an eye on. So just in general, Tony, number 5 on the list, not considering taxes. So when you think about estate planning and you think about how assets are going to pass on or transfer, the question is, what is the tax implication? And have we done all we can do to transfer these assets in the most tax efficient way?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's huge. Obviously, taxes always play a part, it seems, in everything we talk about on the show, Anthony. Every week, taxes comes into it, and that's because it affects our finances and our financial planning so much, especially when we're talking about retirement planning. But you're right. Estate taxes, yikes. You know, I'm from the state of Minnesota, and estate taxes and things like that, capital gains and estate taxes are really bad here in the state of Minnesota, and it varies from state to state, right? So
yes,
yeah, and so you need to consider all the potential estate taxes that are out there. You don't want to overlook that. What's next? What's something else we need to look out for?
Number 6, forgetting about those digital assets. So that's something that, you know, as we march along in time, we have digital property, we have social media profiles. And so what can happen is, you know, passwords. How many times do we try to coach our clients into making sure that all of their passwords and their digital assets are all safe and secure and also accessible to their family, their loved ones, when and if something were to happen to them. So, you know, this is something that, you know, has evolved. I mean, I don't think we were talking about, you know, digital assets even 10 years ago. The way that you know how important it is today, but just online accounts and all of the rest of it, Tony, has to be well guarded but well documented, so the family can access those accounts when and if needed.
Yeah, very good. All right, let's move along so we can get all 10 of these in here. What's next? What's number 7?
Not providing clear instruction. Vague or general instructions about distribution of assets can lead to family conflicts, disharmony, and then even worse, legal battles. So not providing clear instruction. You know, at the end of the day, Tony, if your will and your beneficiary designations, and then even a trust, if you need to set things up to where you want to have a little more control about how assets are passed on.
Number 10, that's trust, right? And we've already, that's come up a few times, but that's important too. What's number 10?
So ignoring trust in general, overlooking the use of trust to protect assets and avoid succession or probate or unnecessary delays or costs. So there are many, many different types of trusts. And as our attorney last week talked about, you know, it's not a blanket, you know, everybody needs a trust. But in some situations where, especially if people have specific instructions on how they want to pass assets on, maybe they want certain structure to that. So much, you know, the person gets so much at a certain point in their life, or maybe it's a minor beneficiary. Maybe they're setting up something for the grandkids, for our college fund. So there's many, many different types of trusts. We just talked a little bit about a special needs trust. There's so many different types of trusts. But if you have a specific requests on how you want assets to go and have more structure involved, then trusts certainly are a magnificent tool for overall estate planning.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's huge. Well, Anthony, great show today. We ran out of time, but we got all 10 estate planning mistakes to avoid, and some great information for our listeners out there. But if they want to meet with an estate planning attorney and get a financial plan in place as well, how can they get a hold of you?
Absolutely. So just pick up the phone and call us at 504-828-2171 or visit us online at crescentcityretirement.com. We just strongly believe that there's 5 key pillars to any sound retirement plan, and that would be estate and legacy planning, healthcare planning, an investment strategy, income planning, and then, of course, taxes. And as you mentioned earlier, Tony, taxes really infiltrate all aspects of a full holistic retirement plan. So we just encourage our listeners to give us a call or visit us online at crescentcityretirement.com.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Anthony, and listeners and viewers. Thanks for tuning in. That does it for today's episode of Wealth Builders with our host, Anthony Congemi.
Thank you for listening to Wealth Builders. Don't pay too much for taxes or retire without a sound income plan. For more information, please contact Anthony Congemi at Crescent City Retirement Group by calling 504-828-2171 or visiting them online at crescentcityretirement.com.
Fee-based financial planning and investment advisory services are offered by Crescent City Retirement Group, LLC, a registered investment advisor in the state of Louisiana. Insurance products and services are offered through Crescent City Insurance Group, LLC. Crescent City Retirement Group, LLC, and Crescent City Insurance Group, LLC are affiliated companies. All matters discussed during this show are for informational purposes only. Each individual situation may vary, and the opinions expressed here may not apply to everyone. Materials presented are believed to be from reliable sources, and no representations can be made as to its accuracy. All ideas and information should be discussed in detail with one of our qualified representatives prior to implementation. We are not affiliated with or endorsed by the Social Security Administration, the Federal Medicare Program, or any other government agency. Calling this number will direct you to a licensed sales agent.